So Greg Wyshynski, and welcome everybody once again to The Sheet. It is Tuesday, January 27th. So Greg Wyshynski, I was on DFO Live this afternoon with Tyler Yaremchuk and Carter Hutton. Let me turn the volume down on my laptop here. And they asked me the William Nylander controversy is the biggest non-controversy since, and the thing that popped to my mind was Joe Thornton discussing the part of him that is most a man and what he would do to the part of him that is most a man should he ever score 4 goals. Can you think of anything else since Joe Thornton and Roostergate that has risen to the level of controversy in the world of William Nylander's finger?
I can't remember the specifics, but anytime it's involved water bottle squirting, I think is something that reminds me of that. That is maybe even more egregious because it's sometimes player to player, and it is on the playing surface, or as they say in heated rivalry, the boy aquarium. But I do like that term. But this obviously was an off ice incident involving Willie Nylander not liking the camera. Now here's the interesting thing about this, because I was thinking people have been asking me like what was my first reaction to the middle finger. Obviously my first reaction was, hey, good form. You know, as somebody who is constantly giving the finger on the roads of New York, I thought that was good form. I thought he did it well. I typically like to go 2 hands and then swirl them around like a swarm of bees at the other driver, but his was pretty good. My second reaction is, that's a lot of camera time for the injured players.
Well, I think they were making a point that this is a depleted Maple Leafs lineup.
Sure, but
as they were getting like completely roasted by the Avalanche.
But if you're asking me like what my reaction was, my first reaction was like as a reporter who is paid to cover these games, I don't think I could stick my camera on the injured players for as long as TSN did. I don't know if that would be allowed. I understand the logistics are different, like me at a practice versus them sitting in a box at the game. But I can understand how if you're an injured player, if you're not even playing in the game, how it could get a little annoying to have that much camera time on national television. But here's my primary reaction when I saw it. And we'll get to the fine in a second.
Collectively bargained.
If this had happened to the Amazon cameras instead of the TSN cameras, it would have been the lead image in the trailer for the next season of whatever Amazon show Willie Nylander is participating in.
Going away 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not even close. That would be, look at this wild show.
Look
Boys
at the bad boy of Toronto.
Look at this. The bearded Swede in the press box flipping the bird.
Watch him give the bird before give the bird before dropping actual F-bombs to Austin Matthews, which Willie Nylander did in the Amazon show, if you'll remember. Yeah. Again, whenever there's somebody who maybe takes offense to something, it all comes down to timing and venue. That's what I've always said. When you go to a comedy club, you expect to be insulted. If that same comedian goes on morning television and makes the same jokes they made in the comedy club, well, now we have a problem on our hands, because the people watching morning television don't expect to hear that stuff like the people in the comedy club do. But the people tuning into TSN to watch the game, they don't expect to have their little precious children have to see a middle finger pointed at the camera. That's a terrible thing to see if you're a parent. But if you're tuning into the Amazon show, you assume that you're going to see it because that's where you go for the F-bombs and the candor. It's all timing and venue, Marek.
It's 2026. Spare me the fainting couch about, think of the children having to see young William Nylander's middle finger for 90 seconds. Spare me the fainting couch. Spare me the fainting couch on that one. But here's the thing too. When you're doing those cutaways, that type of stuff is what you're looking for. You're looking for the general manager throwing the binder. You're looking for Pierre Dorian whipping a chair. You're looking, and this is where I always go back to Pat Quinn, who was the master of this. There was no one better at understanding media during a game than Pat Quinn, because when the game was on, he would be up and down the bench just giving it to guys. Okay?
Right.
The minute the whistle blew and the play stopped, statue practice. Pat Quinn might have been just like rehearsing an elevator ride. Like nothing.
Are you saying coaches can be performative? Are you trying to say coaches can be performative?
None better. But the performance is based on understanding how it works. Because if you don't understand, like, okay, maybe the only time they're going to do a cutaway here is while the play isn't on, so I might be on camera right now, so I'm just going to do some statue practice here. Pat got it better than anybody.
Who was the Devils coach that hurled the bench on the ice? Was it Fatorik or was it Larry Robinson? I forget which one it was.
Robbie Fatorik would chuck stuff.
Yeah, I think it was
Robbie
Fatorik.
Robbie Fatorik would Tom Webster through sticks. So like it has happened, before. We've had coaches, tear their shirts off too, which is always interesting. I'm so mad I'm gonna get naked here on the bench. I don't know, make a mockery out of this.
Next time you do the show with Bruce, can you ask him why he never decided to doff his top in the parade?
I'll get right on that. Let me just write that one down for Monday. Gotcha.
Here's the interesting thing about the fine, as you mentioned, the maximum
collectively bargained
allowable under the collective bargaining agreement.
Yes.
Did you see who gave a statement to Chris Johnston about the fine?
No.
George Peros.
Oh,
now,
I did see that. Yes.
As a student of the Department of Player Safety, this struck me as being a little odd. Now, why is George Peros giving a statement to Chris Johnston? As far as I know, for years and years and years since the Department of Player Safety was founded, the Hockey Operations Department of the National Hockey League is the apparatus that gives out fines for slurs on the ice, middle fingers to cameras, all of the player stuff that doesn't involve fouling another player physically. Now, what I did, Jeff Marek, even though I am technically still on paternity leave from ESPN.
Did you do a journalism? Did you do a journalism? You did a journalism. Okay. All right.
And what I found out is that this season, there has been a tweak to the way the NHL is handling discipline, wherein anything involving a player. Now, we're not talking like DUIs or any of the severe stuff. That's still a Gary Bettman decision. Yep. But, lewd gestures, slurs on the ice, squirting water bottles, all the stuff that used to be suspendable by Coley Campbell is now going to fall under the umbrella of the Department of Player Safety. So George Peros' statement to Chris Johnston came because he was the one who determined what the punishment for Willie Nylander is going to be. So why make this change? Well, you got to remember why this whole thing happened. The Department of Player Safety was founded by Brendan Shanahan roughly around, 15 years ago or something along those lines. And Colin Campbell used to be the guy that suspended players for hits from behind, hits to the head occasionally.
Brian Burke before him.
And Brian
I think actually started that department. It was called something else, but that was the genesis of it.
So player safety comes in. They're going to be the one to handle all the physical fouls on the ice. We got to give Colin Campbell something to do. So he became the guy that fined players for non-contact disciplinary issues, lewd gestures, slurs, what have you. And then also was the guy who handled the fines for coaches and GMs when they would do or say things like, criticizing the officiating.
Right.
So what's happened this year is now anything involving a player falls under player safety. From what I understand, Colin Campbell is still going to be the guy that handles the fines for executives and coaches. But this is a big change. And the only question I had about it was, and I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, is it weird to have the same people who hand out multi-game suspensions to players for misbehavior on the ice also handling the other part of their misbehavior? Like if they suspend a guy for 10 games for boarding, and then, his first game back, he calls someone something you can't call them, and they have to give him discipline. Is it good to have one department handling all of this stuff, or is it better to have multiple departments handling?
What'll happen from the optics point of view is, and we already saw this online, is okay. So you rang up William Nylander $5,000 for flipping a bird, and then we can all see all the screen grabs and the videos of perhaps elbows to the head. that were missed. That's where it gets measured. So you're sort of walking yourself into a situation where, because this is your department, right? Physical fouls, now whatever verbal or digital attack someone unleashes at a camera or another player or at a fan, that's going to be measured up. And here's Mikhail Sergachev from last spring flipping the bird as well, which many people pointed out yesterday on social media, which didn't receive anything, but it's the same thing. Andrew Ferentz did. I think when Ferentz did it, he got fined. Now this was last night too. This is Sean Durzi on who was it? It was on Declan Carlisle. Yeah. So it was F-U, you effing P word. So, okay, like pretty obvious here. Like, and again, like this is going to be measured up against William Nylander's finger. Should that be the Department of Player Safety? Should that be someone else? If it's the Department of Player Safety, if they want to handle it, that's fine. But the criticism is going to be, okay, let's measure that up against physical fouls.
First of all, did you see the fan giving the finger to Durzi? She should be banned from the arena. I mean, that's children could be watching. But again, I'll get back to the player safety part of this in a second. But to Durzi, it's what I said before. It's venue and timing. The venue in this case was the penalty box, and while in theory every player should know there are cameras on them at all times, there is a difference between the camera catching something and doing something to camera. I completely agree with Leafs fans that are bent out of shape about Sergachev giving a finger to the camera on the way off the ice and getting nothing for it, because that is essentially the same thing we just saw Nylander do. Yeah. Obviously. I mean, a bit of a hypocrisy there. To your point about player safety, though, where I thought you were going with the online criticism was that there are certainly fan bases in this league that believe that the Department of Player Safety has it in for them, right? And so now if you're covering both the off-ice stuff and the on-ice stuff, now you're kind of doubling your pleasure a little bit. Now all of a sudden it's like you're handing out a fine for something for this team that you didn't give to this other team, and it could maybe reinforce the perceived biases of this department. But I will say this, like, I talked to somebody at the NHL this morning about player safety now handling every player infraction. Yep. And I said, do we like the idea of the people suspending for boarding also suspending for giving the finger? And their response, and I thought it was a good one, is if there's one thing that we know about George Parros' Department of Player Safety, and again, like everybody in the audience is probably like, they don't suspend anybody. I understand that. It's that they see each infraction as being its own genre. And by that, I mean, at the height of Tom Wilson panic, it was all about the hits that Tom Wilson was delivering from behind. If Tom Wilson tripped a guy and deserved a suspension for it, he wasn't going to get 20 games for the trip. They see that as a different genre of infraction. And so I think in this case, with them now running the not off-ice stuff, but like the non-contact stuff as well, they're going to be able to differentiate between, those things and the other things. And I don't think we're going to see a 1-game suspension for a guy giving the finger if he happens to also be a guy that got a 10-gamer for boarding last week.
Hang on, let me get the intro, because I do want to make one point, and it does wink back at what we saw yesterday between Durzi and Declan Carlisle here. But here's what's coming up on the program today, and I'm looking very much forward to talking to our guest today. The Blueprint is powered by FanDuel. Download the app today and play your game. We're already heavy on the intro, but welcome to MvsW here on a Tuesday afternoon. Coming up on the program, you've seen him, you've heard him, you love him. He's Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. We've talked about finger swearing and fines. We'll still do that, but we'll also add trades. Kevin Allen from Detroit Hockey Now will stop by. Longtime voice of hockey at USA Today, one of the most influential voices the game has ever seen or heard. We'll talk about the Detroit Red Wings, and we'll talk about Team USA as well with Kevin. Now, circle back. One other point that I want to make here, because I think this is maybe where the next step of the conversation goes, and it hasn't really gone there yet, and I kind of thought that it would. Maybe after the Durzi incident last night between Utah and Tampa. It's all these Utah guys with the foul fingers and the foul mouths. Like, this is Utah, folks. Like,
I know, they're playing in a Mormon city, for God's sake. What is going on?
We got these two guys, like, Like, Ryan Smith, like, put a leash on your puppies here.
Yeah.
Like, calm down.
We need we need the real husbands of Salt Lake City to
yes,
completely pull back the curtain on all this lewd behavior of the men of Salt Lake City.
What I think it leads to is a conversation about, and like already like the NHL on the ice, as far as communication between players, is not as salty as it used to be. But it's still pretty salty, as we saw between the Tampa and Utah player last night. I wonder how much this leads to a conversation about how you want players to behave on the ice. And what is acceptable behavior based on clearly flipping the bird in a press box for injured player is unacceptable, and that's going to get a $5,000 fine. At what point does a conversation turn to, well, Nylander got $5,000 fine, collectively bargained, for the finger. What does Durzi get for the cameras? And to your point, players are told, assume you're on at all times. It's like one of the first things you learn in broadcast college, even though I never went, is assume every mic is hot. Always assume every single mic is hot, right? And you're playing on the ice, you assume that every camera could catch anything that you possibly do. How quickly does a conversation turn to behavior on the ice between players?
Yeah.
Not for like slashes and cross checks and things like that, but the salt on the tongue from Sean Durzi last night. That's what
you got to watch out for those hot mics, or else they'll pick up that you are going to give one team the next penalty because that's what the script says, and then you don't get to referee anymore in the league. So yeah, it did happen. I can't see it leading to that, to be honest with you, Marek. Like I think there's I think the lewdness of the sport and stuff like we saw from Durzi last night is a lot like fighting. It's like we can be mad at fighting and we don't want fighting and we penalize fighting. But we also kind of like wink, encourage it a little bit by not banning it outright, because we know that there is a segment of the population that really enjoys it. And, we can get into the whole functionality of it, the releasing the pressure of the moment and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like, we still want a few lions to eat the Christians.
Part of the game. It's always has been. Right. People like it. We're not going to get it. We're not going to get in their way.
So the rough edges and the taunting and all of that stuff, and what we saw from Durzi last night. I mean, like that's part and parcel of what makes hockey, and part and parcel of what people like about the sport and the rough edges of it all. And if you're going to do it to camera, if you're going to do it in a blatant way, then you're going to get fined for it. But I don't think that they're going to go around thought policing everybody on the ice unless you cross the line and say a slur or something that's going to really be offensive to,
well, there was one last night. You F and P word.
UF and P word is different than some of the other things that we've seen get fined.
Oh, I get it. I understand it. But is that not a line in the reality of 2026?
I mean, is it a line for the league? Probably not.
Well, clearly not, because refresh your Department of Player Safety social media feed all you want today. You ain't going to see Sean Durzi's name.
I think you make a good point, which is like, where should the line be? If you are trying to, I mean, listen, we have seen a massive influx of people being interested in the NHL because of heated rivalry. By the way, I'm on a reheat right now with the show, and find it to be enriching to watch the earlier episodes, knowing where everything is going. And a lot of those people are coming to hockey new, and they're discovering some great things about the sport and some not great things about the sport. So a moment like that, in the context of where the sport is in 2026, I think it's a fair question to ask, where should the line be? I know where the NHL will draw it, and I don't think that kind of language is ever going to be penalized by the league. But your point is taken in so far as where hockey is in 2026.
Okay. Bracket that conversation. I'm sure we're going to pick it up at some point over the remainder of the season. Kevin Allen joining us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about the Detroit Red Wings and Team USA. In the meantime, we had a trade. One of the rarest things that we've seen, a trade between the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders. Carson Soucy ends up a member of the New York Islanders. A third-round pick goes the other way. Another sort of domino falls here in this, whatever it's going to turn into, retool for the New York Rangers. So a couple of things that I wonder about here is, does this tell us anything about the Ryan Pulock injury? Is it more severe than we previously thought? I don't know.
Good point.
It's one of the initial thoughts one would have. And the other is, I don't think the Islanders are done by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think you have a goaltender like this playing the way that he does, and a team like this in a division and conference that behaves as if like the Metropolitan and Eastern have, where it's kind of jump ball. After the Carolina Hurricanes, you got a real shot at it here if you're the Islanders. One of the things that I wonder about here is, as you look at the New York Islanders, maybe looking for a right shot defenseman and maybe have a couple of players. I will cite two specifically, Isaiah George and Marshall Warren, who are both left shot defensemen, future prospects for the New York Islanders, perhaps maybe available for trade. Does it maybe set up Tyler Myers going to the Islanders as they look for right shot defensemen? And as Ben Kuzma has reported in his conversation with Tyler Myers, he would be perhaps amenable to finding a new address.
Not a bad thought. Not a bad thought at all. As far as the need and the availability of the player, is obviously the fire sale will continue unabated in Vancouver. By the way, how's Evander Kane not in LA already? We all assume Kenny's going to grab
hang on a second.
Boy, right?
Hang on a second. Have you met the new NHL insider?
No. Who's that?
You haven't met the new NHL insider?
Oh, who's that?
Oh, well, we're going to show you who the new NHL insider is, because this is how we figure out trades now in the NHL. Zach, do you have the piece that we talked about yesterday on the program with Evander Kane? There is a new social media feed, NHL Follow tracker.
Oh, you mean the Instagram tracker?
And how Evander Kane now follows Build Texas Solutions.
That just means he's into real estate. First of all, what guy on an expiring contract is going to look to build something in Texas?
I'm just saying he's having a look at what the Texas market is all about. There have been linkages between, Evander Kane and Colorado, and Evander Kane and Dallas. Perhaps this is how we do. This is how we do. This is how we source trades now. This is how we do it. We find out which real estate companies players are following in the NHL. Kings does make some sense because of Ken Holland, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. It's funny. I do follow that that NHL tracker Instagram feed, and I get I would say 80% of it is players following and unfollowing attractive women, and then there's a few times when it's clear a player or his marketing company has let his friends know that he's on Instagram. So there was a run of about 20 guys all following Jake Ottinger in the last week, which I thought was kind of funny. But then there's ones that are kind of informative.
Everybody from the agency. Oh, we just got Ottinger. All of a sudden, everybody from the agency follows him.
I'm following it, and I'm keeping my eye on it, because I guarantee you, at the trade deadline, there's going to be some news made by Alex Tuck. Alex Tuck no longer follows the Buffalo Sabres or some such, and that's going to be the big news. It's setting up that way, but no, I think first of all, your Myers call is a really good one for the Islanders, and I also think that the great thing about having Sorokin is that even if you do dip a little bit in the standings, there's a safety net. There's a floor. There's a floor that he's not going to allow you to break through, and that's important. But the Kane thing's really interesting, because there's always going to be a team that wants that potential goal scoring and the level of truculence and the playoff experience. But at what cost? For example, you can make a list of the teams that won't be acquiring Evander Kane, and they just so happen to be all the teams that he's played for. There's a reason why.
That's true of a lot of players, though.
I don't know, man. You can go home again in some situations, but he sure ain't going to Buffalo, and he sure ain't going to Edmonton, and he sure ain't going to San Jose. There are certain. This guy is leaving smoldering ashes where bridges used to be in every market that he plays in. And I don't know if that's necessarily the guy you want to add to your roster.
Something that the Vancouver Canucks put out about 20 minutes ago. Patrick Allvin announcing that goaltender Thatcher Demko will undergo hip surgery and will not play for the remainder of the season. He is being shut down.
What a bummer for that guy. What a talented player whose body has just completely failed him.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy. He's in the conversation with the Norris every single year.
Vesna.
Oh, did I say Norris? Yeah, Vesna.
You did.
No, well,
I mean, that's how good he is, though.
He could also win Defenseman of the Year.
Yeah, he's the Sergei Fedorov of goalies. He's playing goalie. He's playing defense.
The only position Fedorov didn't play was in net. Beat it, Ozzy. Wow, that's a real drag certainly for him. And in another season where everything has just come off the rails for the Vancouver Canucks, just throw that log onto the fire as well too.
2.5 years ago, that this guy looked like he was probably a lock for Team USA as well. It's just, it's such a bummer for him.
Okay, a couple more things I wanted to go over with you before Kevin joins us here in a couple of moments. What do you make of all the Jesper Wallstedt conversation? Elliot mentioned.
I was going to ask you about that too.
Well, what I wonder about here is if that's going to be part of the bait to get a center.
I mean, it's obviously the bait to get a center. And when you start throwing around a name like that, then now you're talking about, I mean, the first name that comes to mind is sort of like your Robert Thomas level guy, although I don't know if the Blues necessarily are looking to get a goalie out of a deal like that. But I mean, that it's their Achilles heel. It's the biggest hole in the team. It's the thing that has probably Billy Guerin. He's most nervous about the Olympics. The second most nervous thing for Billy Guerin is probably the idea that his team, loaded with talent that it is going to be going up against Connor and Leon and McKinnon and Brock Nelson, and they're a donut. And that's kind of the issue right now. So you have to give to get. But like, to your point, and I know this is why you asked the question in the manner in which you did, this is like the goalie of the future in theory that you've basically put out there, and if Russo has it, you kind of know where it's coming from. You've kind of put it out there that he's available. Yeah. And why is that? I mean, you do have Gustafsson, who's great, and maybe it's as simple as that, is we don't need him because we got our guy and we like him. But man, that's a good goalie. That's a great prospect that you basically are putting on the auction block, and like, it gives you pause a little bit.
Can I say can I just say the elephant in the room, which isn't going to happen, but I just want to say it?
Go ahead.
Get Jack Hughes.
Well,
I just wanted to see your face. Sorry.
I
wanted to see your
understand. Face. And I don't.
But hang on a second. I know Jake Allen is locked up for 5 here, and Markstrom's new deal hasn't even kicked in yet.
Yeah.
But hang on. But wouldn't New Jersey make some sense here?
Well, they have a goalie in the system who's pretty good, but they don't have a Wallstedt.
They don't have a Wallstedt, and they do have someone whose contract will expire after next season, who plays down the middle as we play fantasy trade here. I got Tyler Myers going to the Islanders. What about Nico Hischier?
I saw Pagnotta talk about Hischier too. Where is this coming from? Where the Devils would trade Hischier? Is it because they're unless they're assured that he's not going to re-sign? Like that's a heart and soul of the team kind of player.
It is.
And I don't understand the idea of trading him away unless you're convinced he's not staying. And maybe that's the situation. I don't know. But like, to me, that's a lot of fantasy casting. But I mean, sure, if he becomes available, that's the kind of guy you trade Jesper Wallstedt for. He's fantastic.
Like, that's the level of trade we're talking about here. Established center. Listen, I don't think that happens. But, the minute someone becomes available, what does everybody do naturally? Try to find the landing spot for him. Try to find the landing pad.
So what happens in 2030 when Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes, and Nico Hischier are all in the Minnesota Wild and they have a cup? Like, should the Devils just fold? Like what's the emotion in Jersey then?
They've all gone. They've all left.
And Wallstedt has like an .895 save percentage.
Oof. Hey, listen,
franchise just fold.
Seen it before. Let's get to our guest. Very much looking forward to this conversation with someone who's been, for as long as we can all remember, one of the most influential voices in the history of hockey. He is Kevin Allen. He is Red Wings beat writer for Detroit Hockey Now, national columnist for the Hockey Buzz as well. He joins us on the sheet. Kevin, first of all, thanks so much for joining us today. How do you look at? I mean, right now it seems a little bit early for Trade Buzz. We still have the Olympics to get to, et cetera, et cetera. But does it just feel friskier to you? Here we are late January, and we have seen a couple of trades, Carson Soucy the most recent. Does this time of year right now, as opposed to other seasons, feel friskier for trade talk? You've seen and reported on a lot.
For sure. And I think it's the caliber of players that are available. I mean, when you have a player like Panarin who, still scoring at a high level even at his age, and he's going to move. They're going to get a nice package for him, even though, he has complete control. I still think they'll do pretty well because of who he is. And then, you hear Pettersson's name out there as well. And, there's a lot of issues, obviously, with him, but, there's no denying his skill level. In my city, there's just constant buzz about what Steve Yzerman will do or really has to do. For the first time, I think, in Steve Yzerman's career, I think he's feeling a little bit of pressure. Like fan drumbeat is that he really needs to do something. Patrick Kane said the other day that we've done what we need to do to get the GM essentially to make some moves. He didn't phrase it like that, but that's essentially what he was saying.
Yeah. Do you think? I'll turn this over to Greg in a second. Do you think that's a reflection of a pretty barren free agent pool at July 1st, and teams are now realizing more so than ever, if we're going to improve here, unless the young kids take major leaps, we're going to have to do this through trade?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been a discussion already about what the Red Wings are going to do in the offseason. And, what I tell people is that take a look. There's not a lot there. If you want to make a move, I think now is the time to do it. And particularly with the way they've played, their holes are not numerous. John Gibson, since the beginning of December, has really acted as if he's the best goalie in the league. He's 17-2. His numbers are terrific. He's really carried this team. And, they've turned it around offensively. They have a little bit of a hiccup now because Simon Edvinsson is out. And Seider and Edvinsson, that defensive pairing, really is at kind of the heart of their competitiveness. And so I think this, these next 5 games when he's going to be out of the lineup is going to be a little bit of a test for him because they've gotten accustomed to those two guys sort of leading the charge. Because some nights they don't get enough offense, but they have that defensive pairing in Gibson that are doing it.
First of all, it's good to see you again, man. I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute, and you are and forever will be the dean of USA hockey writing, in my opinion. So like the Kane comment's interesting because it kind of piggybacks on what Larkin said, right, about the reinforcements and such. And so, is there a moment in which the players are putting enough pressure on Yzerman where he has to do something, or is Yzerman unbothered by what the room is basically saying about, hey, we've earned the right to have you bolster this team?
That's a great question, and one that I would have said forever. I mean, Steve has said numerous times that he really doesn't pay attention to what the fans say. However, I think as I said, the drum beat has gotten really loud. And,
Chris Ilitch does. Just FYI, Chris Ilitch does.
That's the point.
Steve might not.
Yeah, Mike Ilitch is gone, and Chris Ilitch is there. It's much more corporate than it's been before. The baseball organization seems to have a say now in what's going on with the Red Wings as well. So I do think. The fan heartbeat matters. They're paying attention to it, and I think they're going to do something. If you listen around the league, their first round picks in play. I don't think it really has been for the last few years, and I think they're willing to move some of their younger players. But the one thing that Steve does not want to do is get rentals. Now he may have to do that, but I think his preference is to get someone who has at least another year on his contract or can be part of the future moving forward.
Let me focus on one area specifically. I'm of the belief, Kevin, you're closer to it than I am, that they're looking for one top 6 forward and one top 4 defenseman. They missed out on Quinn Hughes. They missed out on Raz Anderson. Were those the two top targets for Yzerman and the Red Wings? Is it now essentially for the blue line? Is it now, okay, plan B? Because they didn't want to pay the price. Like, listen, Anderson was probably going to Vegas anyway. They didn't want to pay the Quinn Hughes price. Understood. That was hefty. But is it plan B time for the back end now?
Yes, for sure. I am absolutely confident they're going to bring in a defenseman. And I think they went pretty hard after Hughes. And I think everybody talked about how they didn't want to give up Edmondson, and that's certainly true. But what they really didn't like more than anything was that they didn't have a shot to sign him now. I don't think they would have given up Edmondson, but I think they might have sweetened the offer to the point where they would have had a shot. But, the fact that Quinn Hughes was unwilling to re-sign with anybody at this point, I think sort of put them out on that. They didn't feel like they wanted to give up all those assets for a year and a half. But I there's no doubt I think they're going to get a defenseman. I think they're going to be looking at people like, I think Myers, you mentioned him, like he's a possibility. I think he's down the list a little bit. But I think a guy that they might be sort of looking at hard is someone like Justin Falk, who's been around the block a little bit. McClellan likes to have guys that can move the puck a little bit as well, and still sort of will pay attention to the defensive side of the game as well. And there's a history with Doug Armstrong and St. Louis and Steve Yzerman. They're friends. And to be honest, like, if it's not Falk, it could be some other St. Louis Blues defenseman, because they like to make trades. There's no doubt about that.
Between Myers and Edmondson, you're going to take on the Pistons, sounds like.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's never brought up is Steve Yzerman said when he got the job that he wanted a big defense. And if you look at it, obviously Axel Sandin-Pellikka doesn't fit that, but he has a special skill set. But otherwise, they have brought in guys that are big. They've got this guy named Anton Johansson, who is a good prospect, who's a big guy who likes to hit as well. Wallander, who I think eventually will make the team, is probably going to be a third pairing guy, but he's a big guy as well. So they're going to be big for a while.
Yep. I wanted to. So my last one for me on the Red Wings, like you mentioned Gibson before, he's been playing out of his mind, and I don't think that acquisition has probably gotten enough love from people who are skeptical about it. He's played incredibly well and has solved a big problem for that team. But how real is this? I think we're all sitting back trying to figure out how real are the Sabres? How real are the Penguins? Like, how real are the Red Wings insofar as how much of this is insane Vezina-worthy goaltending, and how much of this is the Yzer plan producing a team that is playoff worthy?
Yeah, there's enough parts to it to give you a sense of optimism that this is who they are. And I'm going to start with Todd McClellan. It took Steve Yzerman some time to get it right, but he did with McClellan. This is the kind of coach that Yzerman needs. He wants a coach that's going to hold them accountable. This is a guy that's not afraid to say, publicly he's called out Larkin before. He's called out Lucas Raymond for not shooting enough. He gets into the players, yet he's a type of coach that I think everybody likes. So, I think it's a pretty good mix for it. I do think, as I mentioned before, that the McClellan wasn't timid or fearful of putting Edmondson together. He didn't talk about balancing out his defense. He said, I got two premium defensemen. I'm going to put them together. And, that's worked out well. And as I mentioned, they've talked a lot about the chemistry of this team. At least they do here in Detroit. And they've talked about the fact that Lucas Raymond has been one of the best young players, probably doesn't get enough credit for what a good young player he's been. Like, when you see all of his accomplishments in Detroit, they're with people like Yzerman and Fedorov and Henrik Zetterberg. Those are the kind of numbers he's putting up. So I do think there's enough here, and Gibson is a big part of it. If you go back to what was happening then, Steve Yzerman said at his post-season press conference, look, we've been below 900 in the save percentage for far too long, and you can't win in this league with goalies with save percentages that low. So he wanted a guy that had a proven record in terms of save percentage. At the time, I think Gibson was 911 or 912. So they brought him in for his save percentage because some of that was accomplished on some bad teams. So that's why they brought him in, and he didn't start out with a good save percentage, but he has delivered lately. Since December, he's been over 920, and most of his games are in the 900 range. And the other thing about him, and he's a pretty calm, poised guy, and I think they needed that. They need someone who, they don't worry about who's in net when he's playing because he always looks like he's in control.
I'm going to surrender this over to Greg for questions about USA Hockey. But my last Red Wings question is this, and you've written recently about Marco Kasper, someone that I can still remember the first time, Kevin, that I spoke to him was at the Combine, player interviews before the workouts, and just marveling at how mature beyond his years this kid was. 17 years old. He talks like he's 25. I remember he wore a suit with a bow tie, and he was walking in like this, an unironic bow tie, which is really hard to pull off. But there was Marco Kasper pulling it off, and I just thought, this guy is going to be such a pro for whoever gets him. I don't know how quickly he's going to turn into a pro, how he's going to distinguish himself, but this guy's going to be a pro player for someone for a long time. You've written about him most recently, getting some of his confidence back. Hasn't been the best possible season for Kasper. Give us a snapshot of where he's at, because if he's healthy and his head's locked in, that solves a lot of problems for Yzerman.
Well, for sure. And there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, first of all, you got to remember his draft year. What did scouts say about him? He's going to play hard. He's going to be an NHL player. He's going to be the type of player you need to win in the NHL. But he may or may not score. And that was the question that everybody had is, will he be a third line scorer, or could he squeeze up and get in the second line? So last year, when he ended up on the top line, everybody thought, wow, he's really hit a home run. He had 19 goals. He was playing at a high level in the second half. That's what people thought. I think this was this is just the standard sophomore jinx. He came in. That first year was on instinct. He just played hard, and I'm co-chairman of the committee to tell everybody how hard Kasper plays. I mean, most people didn't catch on that he was second on the team last year in hits. He had 180 some hits. This is a guy that goes out and plays hard. So he plays hard every shift. And the other thing I would want to remind people is during all this offensive drought, and it was as ugly as it gets. He went, weeks and weeks without getting a point and playing with some pretty good players. They never considered sending him down to the minors. And I think that speaks to what his game is. They got asked all the time, and McClellan says, he does other things besides score, and he does. He's still one of the leading hitters on the team. He competes hard. You can put him out there. You feel comfortable putting him out with the game on the line. So even when he's not scoring, but they, because of last season, they want more from him. So they're happy that he's scoring, and they're gonna hold him accountable to produce more than he has this season for sure.
All right. Let's push this dumb Canadian to the side for a second and talk about the glory that is the USA.
You sound like your president now, Greg.
Hey, calm down. No politics. Anyways, so listen, you have had the honor of being on the inside of the construction of an Olympic team. And you have obviously covered many incarnations of the men's U.S. Olympic team. What are your thoughts about the roster construction of this team and their chances for winning gold? I was going to say beating Canada, but we all know Canada will be upset by the Czechs well before the gold medal game. So what do you think about this team USA?
Go Denmark.
Well, it's interesting to me because this is a roster that we've all anticipated that they were going to be, the team to beat next time they got in the Olympics. And yet, when I look at this roster, it just feels that while the players are right, the timing seems to be horrible in terms of their readiness to play. And I point out that, the Tkachuks, which were going to be the heart and soul, Both of them have been injured. Matthew more hurt than Brady. But, all of us know who cover this business. There's a time when you come back and you enter the lineup, and then there's the time when you're playing like you normally do. And that they're not one and the same. So as much as I believe Matthew will give it everything he's got, what Matthew Tkachuk are we going to get? I want to believe he's going to be, as I said, the flag carrier of the team and the guy that, puts his heart and soul in it. But, he's been off the ice for a long time, and he's just trying to get his timing back. And it just feels like there's too many of those guys on this team, guys that, had injuries and have had some struggles. Austin Matthews has been up and down, although, his goal numbers now are good, but, you'd like to see a few more assists from him. But so I don't know. I don't know where this team is. I like all the guys. I like everyone else. I wonder why we're not going to see Lane Hudson. I get that he's young, but, all of us have seen what happens because we see it in Quinn Hughes. When you have a dynamic offensive defenseman that can move the puck in the zone and just create havoc and just give a team a lift. And, I get, what Bill Guerin was saying with, he's got Quinn Hughes who's going to do that. And, in today's game, we just use one of those guys on the point on the power play. However, it's nice to have a guy like that, if you're down a goal, you can, just give them license to kill and let them go out there and sort of skate around and see what happens. So it's tough. I covered the 96 World Cup championship, and I've written about it often about the biggest change in American hockey was when Tkachuk and Bill Guerin were old enough to join that team, because America had always had a couple of good, great defensemen. The Ryan Leases, the Chelioses. They had centers, Pat LaFontaine and all that. What they never had, and the late Bill, they always talked about the fact that, the good athletes went to football. Bob Johnson, you talk about that.
Yeah,
and, John Elway would have been a great left wing, but he never had the opportunity. But Tkachuk and Guerin was that first group that were the great athletes that could have gone to football, but didn't. And suddenly they had guys who could go in the corner with Lindros and the Canadians of that era. And I think so. I think Bill Guerin understands how to build a team, but it still doesn't explain to me why he didn't take like a guy like Lane Hudson. Like I sort of understand Robertson, because you don't always need the leading scorer. You need up front, but I do think when there's a guy that's a difference maker like Hudson, you want him on the.
Completely agree.
The one thing that I come to with the decision, Seth Jones goes out and Jackson Lacombe comes in over someone like Lane Hudson. The one thing that I come back to on that is killing penalties. Yeah. And, we don't know, like Jacob Slavin, guarantee. Like I thought Jacob Slavin was the best player at Four Nations, full stop, last year, like 100% of any team in the tournament. I looked at Jackson Lacombe and said, he's there to kill penalties. That's why we have our offense. Bill Guerin's like, okay, we got our players that can score, we got defenders that can move the puck. We need more guys that can kill penalties. Is that a way, do you think, we can look at this decision to go with Jackson Lacombe?
Well, for sure. There's no doubt, and I have great respect for Bill Guerin and his knowledge of the game and how badly he wants to win. I think Greg made reference to it, before that. I'm sure he's spent sleepless nights, trying to win, because I mean this guy just lives to beat Canada. So I really get it. And the one thing I always try to remember, and actually it was taught to me in the early 1980s he was then a scout, David McNabb. David McNabb always said to me, the first time I was looking at the Olympic selections and just shaking my head over some of them, and Dave said, this is the way it works. There always has to be the best player not on an Olympic team, and he's the guy we're going to want to talk about. And it never ceases. Every Olympics we have that it's the best guy that doesn't make the team, any all-star team. And that's the guy we want to talk about, not the guys that are on.
Cole Caulfield, Lane Hudson.
Cole Caulfield,
by the way, I'll remember this Jackson Lacombe justification of the gold medal game when there are no power plays. How important it is to have a penalty killer.
That's so true. Yeah. That is so.
It's not exclusively double IHF referees, but there will be double IHF referees, and there's nothing double IHF referees like more than the whistle. They live for the whistle. NHL referees in crunch time like to keep it in the pockets. Double IHF officials love to blow whistles at big and inopportune times.
Yes, they do.
There will be power plays. There will be power plays. Kevin, this is great. Really appreciate your contributions as always. It's always a delight to catch up to one of the most distinguished and respected voices in hockey media the game has ever had. You're still the king around here. Thanks, Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it, guys. See you later.
There he is, the great Kevin Allen, the voice of hockey in the United States for decades.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, for those who don't know, first of all, Kevin was the president of the Professional Hockey Writers Association forever. Yes. And so there's that part of it. But look, back when we had newspapers, USA Today was the single most highest circulation newspaper in the US. And he was the leading hockey voice in that newspaper. And for a very long time, if you're an American hockey fan, there were two people that were carrying the torch for your sport in our great nation. One was Michael Farber, who would write these, eloquent, mind-blowing, make you completely angry as a writer by how good they are stories in Sports Illustrated. And the other was Kevin Allen, who would write about the news of the day and the stories of the day and the rumors and the trades and all the other stuff in the biggest publication in the country. And for a very long time, that's what we had. And then a plucky young blogger named Greg Wyshynski came along and made something called Puck Daddy and changed the game.
You know what? But one of my favorite hockey conversations I ever had was with Michael Farber. And we did it at the old Hockey Night in Canada radio show that I used to do on Sirius, where you and I met. Farber and I spent, I know you're not gonna be shocked by this one, but I was just so impressed at how in depth he went with what I thought was just a throwaway question about hockey history. We had this 15-20 minute conversation about shadows in hockey and the old photographs of hockey players. And now that there's things like proper lighting, you don't get shadows anymore. But it was always, and I still always look for shadows now when I look at old photographs, and when I look at old videos, I always look for the shadow game that's being played at the same time, and that's something that's been lost. And Farber, honestly, I would just remember, it was a throwaway question or a throwaway comment I made about shadows. I think it might have been about the Barilko goal in '51, and Farber was just like, boom, I'm doing 20 minutes on shadows, and it blew my mind. But that's the level that Farber's at.
As a writer, the thing about Farber that always killed me was you'd read his giant story in Sports Illustrated, and it was an event that maybe you covered, and he's there covering it, and he writes the story, and you read it, and you're like, oh shit, that's right. I need to describe the room where this is happening. It's the simplest little detail as a writer. Oh, just talk about what the room looks like, or what the weather's like, or what the atmosphere was like. And you always forget to do it because you're so focused on the quote or so focused on the play that you forget that the totality of it all, the making you feel like you're in it of it all, the scene setting, for lack of a better term, is really what made Farber a special writer. And you read it, you're like, I'll remember to do that next time. And you go back and read your lead, and you're like, oh, no, I didn't do any of that. I'm terrible at this compared to Michael Farber.
Yeah, he's an absolute treasure. I didn't take many improv classes, but one year that I was at an old radio station, AM 640, we got a new program director, and he insisted that all announcers take improv classes. Great idea. You can imagine how well that went over with a lot of the veterans that have been doing things the same way for 50 years, and they're not going to change by doing improv classes. But I did, and one of the things that I learned, and it's a sort of little device and trick that I still do to this day, whenever telling a story, is start at the middle.
Yeah.
Don't do the A, B, C. Start at the middle. Find that moment that captures the attention, and then goes back. Yeah. Farber knows all of those devices. all of those
Christopher Nolan way of looking at
grab
at improv
people.
Yeah.
You got a couple seconds still?
I do. We should mention. I saw something come down the pipe. Brian Rust gets 3 games.
3-gamer hit
for the elbow on Besser,
Yeah.
and it's about where I thought it would be. Like again, it's not predatory, but it was extremely reckless and resulted in an injury. And if you do the math on that, 3 is probably where it ends up. So again, last week we're just talking about how it was a series of 1-game suspensions this year outside of Lake One, and then we get a 3-bagger the following week.
So $5,000 for Nylander for the finger, and 3 games for an elbow. So if it's a finger, it's $5,000. If it's an elbow, it's 3 games.
Yeah, and now imagine he flipped him the bird before he elbowed him in the head, like
or
Stone Cold
after,
Steve Austin.
while Besser was down. They just went like double bird right into him.
Oh my God!
Like, what would that have been?
3 games and $5,000.
No, hang on a second. Because if he did double bird, that's 10.
Actually, Marek, it's during the course of play, so it would have been nothing. Yeah, he didn't even know the camera was on him. So,
gotcha. Okay, well, we've cleared all that up then. You want to do the history segment with us because it involves someone that we actually kind of just talked about with Kevin here. So, Hungry for Hockey History, a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all of the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, and after the game. Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Zach, what do you have today?
January 27th, 1989, Yzerman joins a rare group. Steve Yzerman became the 4th player in NHL history to reach 100 points in 50 games or fewer. With the feat, Yzerman joined Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Bernie Nichols.
Bumper. Yeah.
There you go.
Steve Yzerman. Now, when he was drafted in 1983, he was drafted with 91 points. This was interesting because the players before him, and Brian Lawton went first overall to the North Stars, like an incredible high school career. Sylvain Turgeon had 165 points in the queue. Pat LaFontaine in the queue as well, played it for Dunn. He had like 130 points. And Steve Yzerman was selected 4th overall by the Detroit Red Wings with 90 points.
90 points.
Now, here's why. And this is one of those things where, like, if you're just like basing your draft position, which in all honesty, because not every team invested heavily in amateur scouting at that point, you would just look at the totals and go like, oh, Turgeon got 163 points or 165 points in the queue. Yeah, he's got to be high up on our list. Higher than someone like Steve Yzerman at only 90 points or 91 points. You know why that was? If you knew anything about the time.
Why?
Dick Todd was the coach. Dick Todd rolled lines. All 4 played pretty much equal lines. So there was no like putting Steve Yzerman with, his linemate would have been Bob Airy with the Peterborough Petes then. They just could have jacked up the points and had 150, 160 points, which is why Steve Yzerman, who you can make the rightful claim, with all due respect to Pat LaFontaine, was the best of the bunch, fell to the Detroit Red Wings at 4th.
I will give a quick little history myself before I hop off.
Okay.
You mentioned Sylvain Turgeon.
Ah oui.
Boy, you talk about a formative moment for young Greg Wyshynski. 1989 was the year that the New Jersey Devils traded away one of my single most favorite players as a young fan.
Yeah.
A guy you might know as the GM of the Anaheim Ducks, Pat Verbeek, the little ball of hate, in a 1-for-1 trade for Sylvain Turgeon, who, as many Devil fans know, was not as good as Pat Verbeek in New Jersey. Now, Verbeek, by the way, was traded by the Whalers in 1995 to the New York Rangers in a deal that involved their first-round pick. A first-round pick, Marek, who turned out to be none other than Jean-Sébastien Giguère. So there you go. A little trade tree action. Yeah, but I hated Sylvain Turgeon as a kid. My God.
Just because he was traded for Verbeek?
What the hell are you doing here?
Just because that was like Lanny for Wolf Paymont? For a lot of Toronto,
there's
Toronto fans.
There is it's a very rational reaction for a fan to see your guy get traded for another guy, and then that guy stinks, and now you hate that guy. I think it's a completely rational reaction for a fan.
as we go down a different road here, do you think that considering this is one of the things I wondered about when Pat Verbeek took over as manager of the Anaheim Ducks, that considering he was going to have much more of a public profile, that people would go back at the Hall of Fame selection committee, look at the numbers, namely the 500 goals and the almost 3,000 penalty minutes, and say, you know what, someone should do a presentation for Pat Verbeek because we might just vote him in. Like that's the way it has to work. They don't decide. Like people have to present candidates. I always thought that given a higher profile in hockey, and now he has it, that somewhere down the road, Verbeek would make it into the Hall of Fame. 500 goals being the barrier to entry, but he's got it.
Right, that there would be a reevaluation of his career. Well, now that's an interesting thought, and I would agree. But if increasing one's profile leads to a reevaluation of a career, then I believe Keith Tkachuk would be a Hall of Famer by now. But
don't you think there's more noise? There's more noise around Tkachuk now than there ever has been.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and it hasn't happened.
But do you think though? No, but do you think that it's maybe just an inevitability that one day it will?
I based on the numbers and impact, I'd like to think so. I'm kind of a Tkachuk for the Hall of Fame guy, but but like it doesn't get any more higher profile than your two sons are the two biggest stars on Team USA, and and you've appeared on reality television shows because they're so famous. Like that, he might have a higher profile than the GM of the Ducks at this point. So.
That's fair. Can we get like the great-great-great-grandchildren of Lorne Chabot playing hockey so we can raise the profile of someone else who belongs in the Hockey Hall of Fame that no one from the selection committee has seen? But nonetheless, I digress.
I'm still fat and happy from the McGillney thing. I got that finally.
That was a big one for you.
And I'll have to maybe Tkachuk will be the next cause celeb.
Something I thought about you this weekend because I had an idea. I had an idea about trophies. I want to do something with you, and we're going to trademark this thing right now. And I don't even know what we're going to call it, but we got to come up with a name for this trophy. At the end of the year, I want to do an alternative trophy thing with you. And maybe this is something that actually players would like more than the Lady Byng itself. Who would be the most ungentlemanly player in the NHL? Can we have that?
Oh man, you open up a can of worms.
And would players like to win that one over the Lady Byng?
The question I have about that, because obviously you're going to deal with suspensions, you're going to deal with penalty minutes, you're going to deal with overall comportment. Do you factor in how much your own team doesn't like you?
Ooh, that's next level.
Do you know what I mean? That's to me the more interesting aspect of the anti-Lady Byng is, do you factor in how much your own team can't stand you?
It's interesting. Matt Barnaby was on the show yesterday, and we were talking about Billy Smith, and I was bringing up the point with Barney that one goalie stat that will never be broken is Billy Smith's career fights, 21.
Right.
No one's coming close, but he fought players, and everybody hated Billy Smith. Like I said to him, if you're an NHL player in that era and Billy Smith hates you, don't feel special. I'm sure there are guys in the NHL right now that if your own team hates you, don't feel special.
Yeah.
That could be a really good side. Let's massage this.
Listeners,
let's
please
park this
do send in
on.
your suggestions for what this could be. But
I want
good
candidates, and I need a name for it, like the opposite of the Lady Byng.
Yeah.
And maybe we just do alternative, least valuable player in the NHL.
There you go.
What do you think? You're a trophy guy.
I think it's good. I'm all for it, and I'm all for pooling together the resources of Daily Faceoff to create an actual physical trophy that we can send to somebody.
Zach, take back your empties. We're making trophies, bud. Get every quarter under every cushion and take back your empties. We're making trophies around the shop. All right, Greg, you be good. We'll talk to you on Thursday, pal.
Take care.
There he is, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN and ESPN.com. What are you shaking your head at? I'm sure just
empties, man.
slightly off camera. I'm sure you got the frat house wall of tins up against the wall.
No.
You're that guy?
No.
No?
Nope. But we do have a bag that we had whenever we had friends come over and we say, oh, this bag. Yeah, just throw it in here. It's a little easier for us. Throw everything in here. And like, oh, okay.
And how long would you let it sit
Take
there?
a stroll.
Next to
No,
18
that would get
discarded
bad.
pizza
I'm in a
boxes.
condo. No, if it was in the university house, a little different because
Right.
that we could like put in the front hall and nobody ever sees it really or smells it. Here, it's a little
Smells it.
different. It's a little smaller when you're operating with like 800 to 900 square feet of living space. Little different.
A little bit different. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's finish up here. That was a fun show. Before we go, this is always a little cookie for everybody at the end. They can't all be hits, but we'll see how we go today. The sheet is powered by FanDuel. Here we go, Zach. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the NHL season, and FanDuel is your home for all the action on the ice. From Blue Line to BetSlip, we've got you covered all season with unique promos, live offerings, and more features to let you play your game. Missed puck drop? No sweat. With a live same-game parlay, you can build your bets up until the final buzzer. Download FanDuel Sportsbook today and play your game. Please play responsibly, 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. If you have questions or concerns about your gambling or the gambling of someone close to you, please contact Connects Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 to speak to an advisor free of charge. Your Honor, the floor is yours.
I don't know how familiar people are with what's going on in Toronto right now, but we got a snowmageddon. I think that, Jeff, they said this is the largest snow dump that we've gotten since the snow measuring stat has taken place.
You're not old enough to
but
know
that
this,
would
but
just
once
mean
you're not old enough to know this, but once upon a time, Mayor Mel Lastman called in the army. God, it was embarrassing for everybody in Toronto. But I digress. Oh my God, it's like everybody in Manitoba, everybody in Quebec, everybody in Alberta, like just howling at Toronto. It's like this is so. There was a lot of snow, but like we're calling in the army. Anyhow, I digress. Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
That's insane. But anyways.
Look it up, bud. It happened. I lived through it. I lived through that shame being a Torontonian. Anyway, thanks, Mel.
I still try to get outside a little bit. I need fresh air at some point, and the grocery store, I'm lucky enough, is just down the street, so I've been walking in and out, but it is really cold, and there's a lot of snow, and it's getting a little wet, so, as a preventative measure, my girlfriend has been making teas so that I don't lose my voice and get sick, and I can still do the shows, but we couldn't remember the tea that Gregor had told us about here on the show, so she said she had her own home remedy, but I've been struggling to get through of it, because every time I would take a sip, I kept finding that it had hints of toffee, mint, and stone.
Toffoli.
Rupe Hintz, Tyler Toffoli, Fraser Minton, and Mark Stone.
Wow. Hints of toffee, mint, and stone. I like it, man. I like it. $5 wins you $874.37, and I love it. Hints to score, Toffoli to score, Minton to score. Does that still pain you, by the way, to see? And Mark Stone as well for your Vegas Golden Knights.
So there's your parlay. 4 legs on that one. Just quickly, to be honest with you, the Minton thing. No, it more pains me like how hung up people are on it. I think it was an expensive price to pay for Brandon Carlo, and the team not being very good this year obviously makes it worse, but it's what the team needed. They needed a right shot defenseman, and pretty much everything last year at the deadline was expensive. Like, I remember getting Brandon Carlo and saying, hey, that's the piece you need. You hear the return back. It sucks. Like, Fraser Minton is going to be a good player. I liked him when he was here. It was too expensive. Like, I'm not going to excuse Brad Treliving of that. He did pay too much, but I don't know. It doesn't pain me the same way as it does when people come back and come in the chat and they're like, how did we give up this guy, the future captain of the Boston Bruins? And I'm like, okay, like, let's just take a breath here, everybody. It'll be okay. We'll figure this out. We'll get through it. So,
okay, one thing from
to answer your question, no.
From someone that I've known for a long, long time who heard our conversation about all the things that have happened since the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Just want to throw one more in, and then I'm going to stop bugging you about it. More men have landed on the moon since '67 than players who have won the Stanley Cup with the Leafs. More people have gone to the moon than have won the Stanley Cup since 1960s. More people have left the earth. I got that one as a show went off the air yesterday. I'm like, okay, I'm going to really try to hold it together while I present this one to Zach, because that's a really good one too. Anywho, on that, we'll remind you that it's a New York hockey night presented by Parasso. This is so cool. Zach and I have to weasel our way down there. Man, this is going to be fun. Thursday, February 19th, join Daily Faceoff alongside special hockey guests at the Atrium inside Ideal Glass Studios in New York City for a night of live podcasts, activations, and giveaways. In partnership with Parasso, Morning Cup of Hockey and Tri-State Hockey Pod will be on location for a night of candid conversation, big laughs, and unapologetic hockey talk, and if we get our way, me and Zach. Doors open at 6:30 Eastern, and Tri-State Hockey Pod gets going with a live show at 7:30. Thursday, February 19th at the Atrium inside Ideal Glass Studios. 21 and over, please. Secure your spot. RSVP at nationgear.ca. I haven't exactly figured out, Zach, how I'm going to beg our way into this thing, but make no mistake about it. Somehow I'm going to try to weasel our way into this thing, because this one sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, it is Thursday, February 19th. Looking forward to that one. The program gets underway at 7:30 with the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. That would be your Johnny Laz hosting on that one. That would be your Mike Rupp, and that would be your Arthur Staple, which is a podcast you should listen to as well, because that area is, I love cluster pods, and that area right now, as far as hockey goes, one of the most interesting areas in all of hockey. So enjoy that pod and enjoy that night. If you
Colby will be there too, by the way.
Colby's coming? Awesome.
I'm 99% sure. So
Vic's going to be
there. Yeah.
Anybody else from our Daily Face-Off crew gonna make their way down there?
That's what I know from the Daily Face-Off crew. I'm certain they're working on some other guests to come through as well, but I don't want to say anything because I don't know.
Will Matt Rempe be there?
Yeah.
Will Matt Rempe be there?
Alexis Lafreniere, will he be there?
Oh, jeez. And will Johnny Lazarus be able to stand up if Alexis Lafreniere barely have enough loose skin to blink? If Alexis Lafreniere is there. Hey, Laz, you want to stand up and shake his head? No, I can't stand up right now. It's math at the chalkboard time in high school. All right.
All right, get out of here.
I've had a really tough day. I needed some laughs. Thanks for joining me here today. Thanks to Kevin Allen for stopping by. Thanks to Greg Wyshynski, as always. We're back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern for the sheet. Have a great day. Jeff Marek along with you. I hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Faceoff, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for the sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a puppy.